Hello and welcome to our presentation from Tees. My name is Julia Carey and I'm a trainee solicitor at Tees. I'm joined today by some of my colleagues who are also trainee solicitors at Tees. In today's presentation, we'll provide an overview of what a solicitor does, the typical routes into this career, the type of qualifications you'll need if you're considering a career in law, an overview of the application process, and why you might wish to consider a career in law. So, the first question you might ask is, what is a solicitor? We've said here that a solicitor is an officer of the court, and by that we mean that a solicitor has duties to the court and must promote justice. This all links in with the fact that solicitors must always act honestly and with integrity. So on the next slide, you'll see that we've outlined a few of the typical tasks which a solicitor will be involved with on a day-to-day basis. You'll find that there's a variety of work and it keeps the role really interesting. So you'll often be involved in research tasks, and depending on the particular topic, you could be researching case law to see what has been determined by the courts, or you could be researching statutes which outline the law. So personally, I have found these research tasks really useful, both in terms of my own learning, but also because it gives you the opportunity to put what you've learned into practice, and that's when you apply it to the particular client's case. And this leads us on to the next point. So one of the main areas of a solicitor's role is to provide advice to clients, and to also outline the prospects of success in any case. So in general, clients approach solicitors because they have an issue which they need advice on or which they need to be resolved. And the type of advice that a solicitor provides, it's very much dependent on the particular area of law they're working in. So once you're qualified as a solicitor, you have to choose which area of law you wish to specialise in. And there are so many areas. You can have employment law, family law, there's property law, commercial law, litigation. There's so many areas, and it's great because you can decide dependent on your own interests. So in terms of the different areas of law, they're generally categorised as being either contentious or non-contentious. And so in summary, a contentious area of law is one which generally involves disputes where matters can end up going to court, whereas in non-contentious areas of law, the matters do not usually go to court. So you'll see our point here on the slide that not all solicitors go to court, and it is very much dependent on the area of law you work in, but you'll be able to decide that based on your own preferences. So there is a lot of paperwork involved in the role and often a lot of deadlines. So this is where the skills such as organisation and prioritisation are important. And in relation to the final point here, we've said that solicitors need to have a strong business head. And so by that, we mean that you need to be up to date with what is going on in the business news and current affairs so that you understand the industry in which your client operates. And basically, clients expect their solicitors to have this understanding because it means then that the advice that they're provided with is tailored to their particular needs and circumstances. So I hope that's helped to provide you with an overview of what a solicitor does. In this next slide, we wanted to give you an overview of the typical routes into law if you did decide to go to university. And my colleagues will be providing further details about other alternative routes into law later on in this presentation. So the left-hand column shows a typical route if you decide to complete a law degree, whereas the right-hand column shows an alternative route if you perhaps decide you wish to study a different subject at university first. So as I'm sure you'll appreciate, regardless of the route you take, you do need to have strong academic results to become a solicitor, and this is initially typically shown by your GCSE and A-level results. So you may then decide to complete a law degree at university, and after this you'd then go on to complete something called the legal practice course, or depending on the time frame, you may be required to complete the Solicitor's Qualifying exam, and that's actually being introduced next year. So after that, you'd then undertake either a training contract or qualifying work experience, and that's over a 2-year period. And then after all these stages, you're finally qualified. So finally, in terms of a slightly alternative route, if you did decide that you wish to undertake a different subject at university first, which is not related to law, then that is also possible. You just need to bear in mind that you'd need to complete an extra course after your undergraduate degree, and that's called the Graduate Diploma in Law. You then follow the same stages until qualification after that. So I'll now pass you over to my colleague Karishma, who will provide more information about the Solicitor's Qualifying exam, alternative routes to becoming a solicitor, and the type of qualifications which are needed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Julia. My name is Karishma and I am a first year trainee at Tees, and I'll be taking you through the different routes available to becoming a solicitor. One of them is through the Solicitor's Qualification exam, or SQE. It has been introduced in September 2021 and replaces the current course available known as the Legal Practice course, or the LPC. The SQE differs slightly from the LPC as it comprises of two parts known as SQE1 and SQE2. So with SQE1, you will have two lengthy multiple choice papers comprising of a series of questions, and it will test your application of the law based on realistic client-based scenarios, covering topics learned in your law degree or the conversion course. You must pass this to then move on to SQE2, which will test you on your practical legal skills, including interviewing, advocacy, and legal research. However, if you do take the LPC course for any of the reasons as shown, you will then have until the 31st of December 2032 to qualify as a solicitor using this route. Another route is through Psilex Qualifications. With Psilex, there are different levels of qualifications ranging from level 3 to level 6 that are available to you depending on which stage you are at academically. So, if you studied a law degree at university or have done a conversion course, you could take what's called a Psilex Fast Track Diploma, and once you've completed this, you're able to practice as a chartered legal executive lawyer. Another route is through solicitor apprenticeships, where you're able to earn money whilst you learn. There's something called the Level 7 Apprenticeship Programme, and it's aimed at post-A-level students, paralegals, and even chartered legal executives. It is a 6-year course, but it can be reduced depending on which stage you are at academically, and it will help you achieve a qualifying law degree and legal practice skills needed to become a solicitor. Again, on completion of this, you will become a qualified solicitor. So, what sort of qualifications do you need? You need strong academics. You want to aim for at least 320 UCAS points or above, so ideally AAB at A-level or equivalent. And if you do go to university, regardless of what degree you choose, you'll want to ideally aim for a 2-1 or above. That doesn't mean to say you can't become a solicitor if you don't achieve these grades, but it will give you that head start, especially as the field is so highly competitive. Thank you for listening, and I will now pass it on to my colleague Alicia, who will speak to you about the process of becoming a solicitor.
Thanks, Karishma. So what do you want your CV to say about you? Your CV is the first glance at you that a potential employer gets to see. Ultimately, it should highlight why you're the best candidate for the job. It often carries significant weight in decision making. As such, you should always check and double check for spelling and grammatical errors. Before you send your CV off, give it to a friend or a family member to proofread. You'll be surprised at what you might have missed or not noticed after having read it over time and time again. Make sure that each time you achieve a new goal, help out with some charitable work, or obtain a new qualification, note it down on your CV to build up your CV profile. Also make sure that you include some personal achievements too, such as sports achievements or positions of responsibility held, not just those that enhance your work profile. This helps to give a more rounded picture of you to the reader. Be sure to back up the skills you note down on your CV with examples. For example, saying I am confident can be expanded by saying, winning the school debating competition in 2019 has greatly improved my confidence. The vacation scheme itself. Vacation schemes are an opportunity for not just the firm to see how you perform firsthand on the job, but also an opportunity for you to experience life in the office. They will often give you the chance to work across more than one department or in more than one office if the firm is big enough. Some vacation schemes offer the opportunity to be interviewed for a training contract or qualifying work experience at the end of the week or 2-week period. This is invaluable interview experience. The vacation scheme application process is rigorous, and it is highly competitive to obtain a placement. The process will often involve the opportunity for you to write a cover letter explaining why you want to apply to the firm and pursue a career in law, enclosing a copy of your CV to provide further information about you. The application process is often lengthy, and the questions are tailor-made for each firm, so make sure that you don't just copy and paste your answers from one application to the next. It will be noticed. Most importantly, you should know when the applications are open, and when the deadline is for your submission. Missing a deadline can put you back 6 months to a year, so it's crucial you're organised in preparing for these. The training contract and qualifying work experience. With the introduction of the SQE from the 1st of September 2021, the requirement for a traditional training contract is being scrapped in favour of QWE, or qualifying work experience. The traditional training contract is a fixed-term contract of employment with a single law firm, and your position is as a trainee solicitor. It's a 2-year programme structured on training across 4 or 6 departments, known as seats. In each 4 or 6 month seat, you will work alongside a partner or a senior associate who will assess you throughout the process of your training contract. The qualifying work experience criteria is quite different. It may be completed with up to 4 different legal employers. You'll need to build up 2 years' worth of qualifying work experience in order to obtain the qualification. You can build this experience through university placements, paralegal experience, or volunteer experience. What is important to note is that it is up to the individual law firms to decide how they accept your previous work experience. For example, you may have completed part of the required qualifying work experience through a pro bono placement. However, on obtaining a role at a law firm, you might be required to complete the entire 2-year period of qualifying work experience with them, if that is what they require for you to practice at the firm. It is anticipated that many law firms will continue to provide the traditional training contract structure, but simply rebrand it as qualifying work experience. I'll now pass you on to my colleague Ellie, who's going to discuss with you the applications for training contracts or qualifying work experience, the process and the assessment day, what happens when your training contract or QWE finishes, and lastly, why apply.
So moving on to applications for training contracts and the QWE. So it's anticipated that applications to undertake the QWE at larger law firms will be assessed similar to the traditional training contract. So whilst the process will vary from firm to firm as it does at the moment, the common assessment process is as follows. So it's a CV and covering letter, and sometimes there is psychometric testing at this stage as well. So for your CV, it's already been discussed earlier, but just make sure you include your relevant experience, sort of if you've got anything from university, be that client interviewing, muting or negotiating, that would be good to include. And also make sure that you cover off what makes you you. They're really looking for sort of the defining characteristics that you can bring. Then the covering letter, make sure that you've researched the firm well, and you know what they're about, what their sort of ethos is and what areas of law they cover. And also make sure that you explain why you would be a good fit to the firm. Then moving on to the assessment day. They tend to be groups of 20 to 30 applicants and cover off group exercises, which will include things like leadership and communication, as well as how you interact as a team member that they're looking for, individual exercises for an online assessment, a written assessment, and then likely a presentation to partners as well. Then also one of the 3 following types of interview, so group interview, panel interview, or one-to-one. So what happens when you've completed your training contract and the QWE finishes? So you are now officially a solicitor, and you will be admitted to the role of solicitors through the Law Society as well. But the hard work doesn't stop there. Unfortunately, you will need to then look for qualification jobs, be that through the firm that you've trained at or elsewhere, and the training firm that you have been with are under no obligation to employ you, so potentially more applications at that stage. So why become a solicitor? It's highly rewarding, it's very diverse, and there's a sort of wide range of topics that it covers. It's definitely progressive, and there is the room to move up throughout your career as well. It's a consistent career, so it's definitely got sort of lifetime span on it, and always going to need solicitors within different areas, and it's also financially rewarding. So I hope you found the presentation helpful. Thank you very much.